It's a gift. The alien smiled, then presented me with a living, breathing surprise asterisk. Marcus's veil pressed his gloved hand against the ancient stone wall, feeling the vibrations of a civilization that had vanished eons ago. Planet Zarian swirled around his boots as he documented the mysterious symbols carved deep into the crystalline rock. For 3 years, he had wandered from planet to planet, studying the remnants of lost cultures, always searching for something he couldn't quite name. The loneliness had become his constant companion. His research ship, the Meridian, contained only his voice recordings and the soft hum of life support systems. Marcus had chosen this solitary path after losing his research partner in a mining accident on Kepler 4b. Since then, he had avoided deep connections, burying himself in the mysteries of dead civilizations rather than facing the pain of living ones. As he traced the symbols with his scanner, one particular glyph began to pulse with soft blue light. Marcus stepped back, startled. In all his years of archaeological work, he had never encountered reactive ancient technology. The glyph's glow intensified, spreading to neighboring symbols until the entire wall blazed with ethereal light. "What the hell?" Marcus whispered, his breath fogging in the thin atmosphere. The wall began to vibrate, sending tremors through the ground beneath his feet. Without warning, a section of the wall dissolved like water, revealing a chamber filled with floating crystalline structures. At the chamber's center stood a pedestal supporting a sphere of pure crystal that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. Within its depths, Marcus approached cautiously, his scientific curiosity overriding his survival instincts. The moment his bare fingers touched the crystal's surface, reality shattered around him. Colors beyond human perception flooded his vision. As he felt himself being pulled through space and time, when the sensation stopped, Marcus found himself standing in what could only be described as an interdimensional marketplace. Beings from countless species moved between stalls that defied physics, their forms ranging from humanoid to completely alien. The air hummed with languages he had never heard, while exotic scents filled his nostrils. Above, instead of sky, swirled a tapestry of stars and nebulae from different galaxies. Marcus realized he was no longer bound by the laws of any single universe. "You look lost, traveler." The voice was melodious, with an accent that seemed to shift between musical notes. Marcus turned to see the most beautiful being he had ever encountered. She stood nearly his height, with skin that shimmered between silver and deep blue, as if starlight danced beneath its surface. Her hair flowed like liquid mercury, and her eyes held the golden warmth of twin suns. Where am I?" Marcus managed to ask, his scientific mind struggling to process the impossibility around him. The being smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "You are in the Nexus Market, where all dimensions converge. I am Zara, keeper of rare gifts and ancient connections." She gestured to her stall, which displayed items that seemed to shift between states of matter. "And you, Marcus Veil of Earth, have activated a gateway crystal." "How do you know my name?" Marcus asked, though he found himself stepping closer to her stall. Drawn by an inexplicable magnetism, Zara's golden eyes sparkled with mischief. "The crystal reads the hearts of those who touch it. You seek something beyond knowledge, beyond the artifacts of dead worlds. You seek connection." Her voice dropped to a whisper that seemed to caress his soul. "I have just the gift for you." From behind her counter, Zara lifted a small, living crystal that pulsed with warm light. It was roughly the size of his palm, with surfaces that shifted like breathing skin. "This is Nyx, a consciousness bridge. It allows beings to share thoughts, memories, and emotions across any distance or dimensional barrier." Marcus felt his heart racing as Zara held the living crystal toward him. "Why would you give this to me?" Zara's expression grew wistful, and for a moment, Marcus glimpsed profound sadness in her golden eyes. "Because, Marcus Vale, some gifts are meant to heal the loneliness that echoes across the stars. And perhaps, in accepting this gift, you will understand that even in the vastness of the universe, no soul need wander alone." As Marcus reached for the crystal, he felt the first stirrings of something he had thought lost forever: hope. The moment Marcus's fingers closed around Nyx, the crystal began to vibrate with gentle warmth. Suddenly, images flooded his mind, not his own memories, but those of another. He saw vast cities floating among the clouds, beings with shimmering skin dancing under 3 purple moons. And through it all, an overwhelming sense of loss and isolation. Are my memories? Zara whispered, her voice now carrying directly into his thoughts through the crystal's connection. Nyx creates bonds between consciousness itself. What you're experiencing is my homeworld, Ithros, as it was before the Great Silence. Marcus gasped as the visions continued. He witnessed the gradual fading of Zara's people, not through war or disaster, but through a mysterious phenomenon that caused their life force to simply ebb away. In the final memory, Zara stood alone among empty cities, the last of her kind. "I'm sorry," Marcus said aloud, feeling tears he hadn't shed in years rolling down his cheeks. Through Nyx's connection, his empathy flowed back to Zara, and he watched. Her golden eyes widened in surprise. "You truly feel my pain as your own," she marveled, stepping around her stall to stand closer to him. "In all my years in the Nexus market, no being has ever connected so deeply with Nyx on first contact." The crystal pulsed brighter, and suddenly Marcus could sense Zara's emotions as clearly as his own. Her loneliness echoed his, but beneath it, he felt something else growing, a warm, electric attraction that made his pulse quicken. Through the bond, he realized she was experiencing the same sensation. "This is incredible," Marcus breathed, looking into her eyes and seeing his own. Wonder reflected there. "I can feel everything you feel." Zara reached out tentatively, her shimmering fingers tracing the line of his jaw. The simple touch sent waves of sensation through both of them via their shared connection. In my culture, such bonding was reserved for life partners. The joining of consciousness was considered the most intimate act possible between two beings. Marcus felt his breath catch as her touch ignited feelings he had long suppressed. "And now we're connected," he whispered. "Now we're connected," she confirmed, her voice carrying notes of wonder and desire. Through Nyx, Marcus could feel Zara's heart racing in rhythm with his own. The crystal seemed to amplify not just their emotions, but their growing attraction. To each other, as if drawn by invisible forces, they moved closer together. Marcus wrapped his arms around her waist, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him despite their different species. Zara's hand slid up his chest, leaving trails of tingling warmth that he felt both physically and psychically. "I never expected this," Zara murmured against his ear, her breath sending shivers down his spine. "When I offered you Nyx, I thought perhaps you would find peace in connection with your own kind." "I never imagined that we would find each other," Marcus finished, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. Through their bond, words became unnecessary. He could feel her longing, her surprise at finding someone who understood her isolation, and her growing desire for the connection they were building. When their lips met, the kiss was electric in more ways than one. Nyx pulsed with brilliant light as their emotions merged completely. Marcus experienced the kiss from both perspectives simultaneously, his own desire and wonder, and Zara's joy at finding someone who could touch not just her body, but her very soul. They broke apart, both breathing heavily, the crystal still glowing softly between Marcus's fingers. "What happens now?" Marcus asked, though through their connection he could already sense Zara's conflicted emotions. Her golden eyes flickered with worry.
"How, Marcus?"
"Veil of Earth, we face the consequences of a bond that crosses species. The Nexus market exists in neutral space, but the Cosmic Council has strict laws about interdimensional relationships." Marcus pulled her closer, feeling protective instincts he hadn't experienced in years. Through Nyx, he could sense her fear of losing this unexpected connection. "Then we'll figure it out together," he promised. Zara smiled, her first truly happy expression since he had met her. "Together," she agreed, sealing the word with another kiss that sent waves of shared emotion rippling through their consciousness bond. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus first touched Nyx, and his life had transformed completely. Each night, he would return to his ship, the Meridian, and activate the gateway crystal. transporting himself back to the Nexus Market to meet Zara. Through their consciousness bond, the hours apart felt like torture. "You're taking considerable risks," Zara warned, as they walked hand in hand through the quieter sections of the market. Her stall had long since closed, but they had discovered hidden alcoves where beings from different dimensions could meet. Away from prying eyes, Marcus squeezed her hand, feeling her anxiety through their connection. "Worth every risk," he replied, meaning it completely. As through Nyx, he had experienced more emotional intimacy in 3 weeks than in his entire previous life. Zara led him to a secluded garden where bioluminescent plants from a dozen different worlds created a romantic canopy of soft light. They had claimed this spot as their own, a sanctuary where they could explore their deepening relationship. "Tell me about the Cosmic Council," Marcus said, as they settled onto a bench carved from living crystal that responded to their emotions. With gentle warmth, Zara's expression darkened, and through their bond, Marcus felt her fear spike. "They are ancient beings who regulate interdimensional travel and relationships. Their primary law is species separation. They believe that connections between different evolutionary paths lead to chaos and destruction." "Have they ever been proven right?" Marcus asked, pulling her closer so she could rest her head against his shoulder. "There have been incidents," Zara admitted. "Some species created hybrid offspring that carried devastating genetic instabilities. Others formed bonds that led to the extinction of entire civilizations when their connections were severed by death or distance." Marcus stroked her liquid mercury hair, feeling its impossible softness. "But we're not talking about reproduction or political alliances. This is about two beings who found something beautiful together." Through Nyx, Zara shared a memory of the last interdimensional couple who had been discovered by the Council. They had been separated forcibly, their consciousness bonds severed, and both had died from the psychic trauma within days. "Won't let that happen to us," Marcus said fiercely, his protective emotions flowing strongly through their connection. Zara lifted her head to meet his eyes, and Marcus saw his own determination reflected in her golden gaze. "The penalties grow more severe. Each day we remain bonded, but I cannot imagine returning to the loneliness I felt before you." Their lips met in a kiss that was both tender and desperate. Through Nyx, Marcus could feel Zara's conflicted emotions, her joy at being loved for the first time in centuries, mixed with terror at the consequences they might face. "We need a plan," Marcus murmured against her lips. "There has to be somewhere we can go, somewhere beyond the Council's reach." Zara's eyes lit up with sudden hope. "There are legends," she whispered. "Stories of a hidden sanctuary called the Haven, where beings from forbidden relationships have found refuge, but no one knows if it truly exists." Marcus felt excitement building in both their hearts. "Then we find it." "I'm an archaeologist, Zara. Finding lost places is what I do." Over the following days, they began their research in secret. Marcus used his archaeological contacts throughout the galaxy, while Zara questioned the oldest merchants in the Nexus Market. Slowly, they pieced together fragments of information about the legendary haven. Their investigation did not go unnoticed. Strange energy signatures began appearing around Zara's stall, and Marcus noticed unfamiliar beings watching him during his travels. The Cosmic Council was growing suspicious. One evening, as they met in their secret garden, Zara arrived with tears streaming down her face. Through their bond, Marcus immediately felt her devastation. "They know," she whispered. "The Council has issued a separation decree. I have 3 days to sever our bond or face exile from the Nexus Market forever." Marcus pulled her into his arms, feeling her terror as if it were his own. The Nexus Market was the only place left in existence where beings from her destroyed world could survive. Exile meant certain death. "Then we find the haven," Marcus said with quiet determination. "We leave tomorrow." Zara looked up at him with a mixture of hope and fear. "If the haven doesn't exist, we'll both die in the void between dimensions." Marcus cupped her face gently, letting all his love flow through their connection. "Then we die together. I'd rather spend one day truly living with you than a lifetime existing alone." Through Nyx, their souls touched in perfect understanding. Whatever came next, they would face it as one. The next morning, Marcus and Zara's escape plans crumbled when interdimensional enforcement agents surrounded the Nexus market. Beings of pure energy, they moved through the marketplace like living storms, their presence causing reality itself to fluctuate. Council Enforcer Vex wishes to speak with the bonded ones, announced one of the agents, its voice echoing from everywhere and nowhere at once. Through their connection, Marcus felt Zara's terror spike. She had dealt with the Council before, but never as a violator of their most sacred law. Hand in hand, they walked toward the market's central plaza, where a figure of imposing authority awaited them. Council Enforcer Vex appeared as a tall, angular being composed of shifting geometric patterns. Where a face might be, stars wheeled. In endless configurations, when it spoke, reality bent around its words. Zara of the fallen Ethros, Marcus Veil of Earth, you have violated the fundamental law of species separation. Your consciousness bond threatens the stability of dimensional barriers. How does our love threaten anything? Marcus demanded, stepping protectively in front of Zara, through Nyx. He could feel her gratitude for his courage, even as her fear continued to grow. Vex's stellar patterns shifted into what might have been amusement. Love, human? You mistake psychic contamination for emotion. Crystal Nyx has created an artificial bond that will eventually consume both your consciousness and merge you into a single, unstable entity. That's not true, Zara said, finding her voice. I've used consciousness bridges for centuries without incident. Never across species barriers, Vex replied coldly. Your different mental architectures are already beginning to bleed together. Within one planetary cycle, you will cease to exist as separate beings. Marcus felt doubt creep through their bond, not his own, but Zara's. Through their connection, he could sense her wondering if the intense emotions they shared were real, or artificial constructs of the crystal. Even if that were true, Marcus said firmly, it would be our choice to make. Individual choice ends where dimensional stability begins, Vex declared. Zara of Ethros, you will surrender the consciousness bridge and accept exile from the Nexus market. Marcus Veil, you will return to your dimension and never again access gateway crystal technology. And if we refuse? Zara asked, though through their bond Marcus could feel she already knew the answer. Then you will be forcibly separated, and the psychic trauma will likely kill you both. Choose quickly. Marcus's mind raced, drawing on years of studying ancient civilizations and their escape methods. In his archaeological travels, it encountered references to dimension-jumping techniques that predated the Council's authority. One in particular stood out, the sanctuary protocols mentioned in the ruins of Zarian. We need more time, Marcus said. At least allow us to prepare for separation properly, to minimize the trauma. Through their bond, Zara felt his plan forming, and sent him a pulse of desperate hope. Vex's patterns shifted into what might have been consideration. You have until the next stellar alignment, approximately 18 of your Earth hours. Use this time wisely. As the Enforcer agents withdrew, Marcus and Zara hurried back to his ship. The moment they were alone, Marcus pulled out his research data from Zarian. Here, he said, showing her ancient symbols on his scanner. These aren't just decorative carvings. They're instructions for accessing pocket dimensions, spaces that exist outside the Council's jurisdiction. Zara studied the data, her golden eyes brightening with hope. This could work, but the energy requirements would be enormous. We need to channel power directly from the gateway crystal itself, and that's what we'll do, Marcus said, pulling her into his arms. Through Nyx, they shared their determination and their love. Both strengthened by the prospect of fighting for their future together, they spent the next several hours preparing, gathering supplies and mapping dimensional coordinates from Marcus's archaeological database. As they worked, both could feel the clock ticking toward their deadline. Marcus, Zara said softly as they made final preparations. If this doesn't work, if we don't survive the translation to a pocket dimension, ... He silenced her with a gentle kiss. Then we'll have tried everything to stay together. It's all anyone can do. As the stellar alignment approached, they stood before the gateway crystal on Zarian, hands clasped around Nyx, ready to leap into the unknown rather than accept forced separation. Whatever waited in the pocket dimension, they would face it together. The pocket dimension materialized around Marcus and Zara like a gentle awakening. Instead of the hostile void they had expected, they found themselves standing in a vast garden where crystalline trees sang with harmonious tones and streams of liquid light flowed between flowering plants that existed only in dreams. "Welcome to the Haven," said a warm voice behind them. They turned to see an elderly being who appeared to be a hybrid of multiple species, part human, part something beautifully alien, with kind eyes that held the wisdom of ages. Around them, other figures emerged from the garden, all clearly from different species, all obviously in love. "I am Keeper Thorn," the being continued, approaching with open arms. "We are the Haven collective refugees from the Council's rigid laws, beings who chose love over conformity." Marcus felt his jaw drop as he realized the truth. The Haven isn't just a legend, it's real, and it's thriving. "Indeed," Thorn smiled. "We've been expecting you. The dimensional disturbance you created during your escape was quite remarkable." Through their connection, Marcus felt Zara's overwhelming relief and joy. They had found not just sanctuary, but a community of beings who understood their situation. Over the following days, they learned about the Haven's history. It had been established centuries ago by the first interdimensional couple to successfully escape the Council's persecution. Since then, it had grown into a thriving society where beings from different species could explore relationships without fear. "The most beautiful part," explained Keeper Thorn as he showed them around their new home, "is what happens when different forms of consciousness truly merge. Look." He gestured toward Nyx, which had begun to glow more brightly since their arrival. The crystal was no longer just facilitating their bond. It was evolving, becoming something entirely new. "Your connection has created something unprecedented," Thorn continued. "Nyx is becoming a bridge not just between two minds, but between all forms of consciousness. Your love is literally expanding the possibilities of sentient connection." Marcus and Zara exchanged amazed glances. Through their bond, they could now sense not just each other's emotions, but the contentment and love flowing between all the couples in the Haven. Weeks passed as they settled into their new life. Marcus established an archaeological research station studying the unique properties of pocket dimension artifacts, while Zara opened a new kind of marketplace, one where beings traded not goods, but experiences and memories. Their relationship deepened in ways they hadn't imagined possible. Through Nyx's continued evolution, they learned to share not just emotions and memories, but dreams and aspirations. They discovered that their different perspectives, his scientific curiosity and her intuitive understanding, created a synergy that enhanced both their abilities. One evening, as they walked through the singing crystal forest, Zara made an announcement that filled Marcus with wonder. "I've been receiving signals," she said, her golden eyes bright with excitement. "Other survivors from Ethros are out there, scattered across distant dimensions. Nyx is powerful enough now to reach them. We could reunite your people," Marcus breathed, understanding the implications. "Not just my people," Zara replied, pulling him closer. "Every species that has been scattered, isolated, or deemed extinct. We could create a network of consciousness that spans all of reality." Marcus felt his heart swell with pride and love. The Council separated beings out of fear, but we could bring them together out of love. As if responding to their shared vision, Nyx pulsed with brilliant light, sending waves of connection rippling outward through dimensional space. In the distance, they could see new arrivals materializing in the Haven, beings they had called home with their message of hope and unity. Marcus pulled Zara into his arms, marveling at how a simple gift exchange in an interdimensional marketplace had led to this moment. Through their bond, he felt her same sense of wonder and gratitude, ready to change the universe, he asked with a grin. Zara's answering smile could have lit up entire galaxies. "With you, Marcus, Veil of Earth, I'm ready. For anything." As they kissed under the singing crystal trees, Nyx continued to pulse with expanding waves of connection, carrying their love story to beings across the cosmos, and proving that some bonds are strong enough to reshape reality itself, their gift Exchange had become something far greater than either had imagined, a beacon of hope that love could triumph over fear, unity over separation, and that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a simple act of trust between two lonely souls.